cannot see me, but if you could imagine seeing me, I look like Matthew McConaughey, but just darker. Our core value this month is leadership. And we have a panel with Nick Penn, Ben John, and Tim Schulz. And we're going to discuss some leadership. Our topic for the month for the coaching education is also leadership, and just so happens to tie in with our core value. So without any further ado, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for joining us live. Thank you to everybody who watched. For the interest in full disclosure, Tim is in an airport, so we might get some background noise, and Ben and Nick have been instructed to take over in true leadership fashion. Tim has already got a backup plan. So without any further ado, welcome everyone. You should be able to see my very colorful screen and some words there. And we're going to start now with the first question to Tim, which is, what prompted you, Tim, to become a leader? And then we'll go to Ben and then Nick.
Well, first of all, thanks for hosting us and running these cool webinars, Chris. I've enjoyed them through the years. Leadership, wow. I think that could be a loaded question. I don't think people are, I think everybody's a leader to some extent, you know, one way or another, some good, some bad. You know, there's great gang leaders in Compton, and they're good leaders, but they're leading bad ways. So I think every aspect in every organization, you know, whether it's a family or a club, like in our case, there are leaders. So is one created or born? I don't know. It's a good question. This is going to scare some people, but I don't really care to be a leader. I just would like to be around a bunch of people that want the same vision and same goals. Yeah, I mean, leadership, I don't think I wanted this role. I just kind of grew into it, and I love the vision that was created by Rush, and I think a lot of other people liked it and loved it too, and that's where it just kind of evolved. So leadership, I'm not so sure I'm a good leader, but I kind of grew into this role. So I don't know if that helps your question.
It did a little bit, Tim, but just to dig a little deeper and challenge you a little bit and have you think a little more. When we look at the concept of Rush, you believed in something, and you got 2 or 3 clubs together, and you had this vision and shared your vision, and you have this innate ability for people to follow you. And maybe if you look back and think, maybe that started when you were younger, when you were in your playing days, the way you used to play, your upbringing and stuff like that. So I think, you know, from my perspective, I think you've looked at situations and seen a little hole or something missing, and then seized it, which enabled you to jump on and therefore lead, even though you don't want to be in that leadership position.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm not a psychologist, but I really don't want people to follow me. I don't want to follow other people. I want to follow a person who believes in a good vision and a good core value and a good goal in life, something that's worthy, something that helps people get better and it helps them become a better human being. I think that's kind of what's going on with the current stage I'm in. You mentioned as a player, yeah, I was captain and I was head of our players union, but I think it's because I focused on an objective, and I wanted to beat the opponent bad. And that was just what I was focused on. I wanted to be first place in our division, in our league. I wanted to win the national title. And because I think of that, I think people just naturally followed or wanted me to be captain, because my objective was, I don't care about Tim Schulz. I care about what our goal and mission is and how we get there. And we fight together to get there. So I think there's a little bit difference. I would say to anybody, even on this panel, be careful following somebody, because they're going to fail. But as long as they keep focused on that vision and that goal and objective as best they can, because, oh my God, you look at my past and history, I've failed many times. But as best they can, they follow and strive towards that vision and stumble along the way. Then I think you've got a good group of people that are going to go in the right direction.
Yeah. Good point. Ben, can you build off that? And then Nick will come to you. You have to unmute, Ben.
At least today, in terms of the theory of leadership, they would agree with Tim Schulz and say that, leaders aren't necessarily born. There are specific qualities to leadership that I think can be taught in people. And so I think that's one premise. The second is, and Tim said it repeatedly, it's hard to be a leader if you don't have a vision. And if there isn't sort of, a strategy to determine how you sort of realize that vision. And, we were talking earlier about 10 years ago, I was in this room with Tim Schulz and Daouda and Mark Zathi and all those guys. And there was a clear vision, and they had a strategy, and their strategy was their vision was to build this larger organization and develop the economies of scale through that organization and feed into becoming, one of the most significant professional clubs they could. Their strategy was to develop the Rush way in and through all of these people that they brought in. And so in the absence of those two things, I'm not sure you have an environment for leadership to occur. But in my case, it was what others saw in me and their graciousness and humility and talent to recognize something that I didn't necessarily see in myself. So I've been blessed that way, I think, especially initially, to be given opportunities. And I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. And again, Ben, I think you saw some gaps. I was with you obviously 10 years ago when, in fact, even longer, when we merged our clubs and then became, Wisconsin Rush and so on and so forth. And people did look to you because you were articulate, you were knowledgeable, you listened well. And even if you didn't know the answer, you would say, you know what, I'm not sure about that. Let me check and get back with you. And I think people appreciate that as well. Nick, anything different to add? And then we'll go with the second question with you first, Nick, but let's go with the first question first. So what prompted you?
Me?
Yeah,
for sure. Like if I think of my childhood, I was a quiet kid. Actually, I think I'm quiet now. If you go to a party, I'll either be the one sitting in the corner on the chair, just watching what's going on and viewing. And if someone wants to come speak to me, then this is where I'll be. And I've got a wife that is completely the opposite, just complete crazy. Will be the life of the party. So I like quiet, but quietly confident. And then like at 22 years old, after I finished college, I just gambled on myself and said, you know what, I want to follow my passion. I want to be part of soccer. I'd been to the States a few times. I'm just going to go do it. So I came back to America, and then within 6 months, the Pikes Peak Soccer Club technical director came up. I was 23 years old, had not really much idea what I was doing, and gambled on myself again. And I think found myself in now a leadership position, leading this club full of people that were twice my age, that were established, one of the oldest clubs in Colorado at the time. The Pikes Peak Invitational will be going on 30 years, and then I walk in, and I think I was just sort of found myself in that leadership position, and then went, okay, let's try and do this. And I think it wasn't prompted, I wasn't motivated, I just followed my passion of soccer, found myself, gambled on myself and said, I can do this. And here I am today, and just kept going through next step. Other people believed in me, thought I was doing a good job. And now I find myself in this amazing position as executive director of Rush Soccer, and helping guide and direct and lead other people. So grateful, very fortunate, but gambled on myself to get there.
Yeah, and what an amount of humility you've just shown in that answer too, right? 22, 23 years old, leading a big club, and now you're having to manage up, Nick, leading up. How was that? And that's not one of our questions, but what did you find difficult as a 23-year-old male, letting other coaches who are older around you? How did you find leading them people?
Well, I had a secret weapon. It was called an English accent. So everybody automatically thought that I was knew what I was talking about. So I actually used that, and I even today I think I lead by serving. Like I work with the NTDs, and I might be their supervisor and I work with them, but I serve them. What can I do to help them? So my leadership style, I don't know if it gets down to that, is I like to serve, and so that served me well with leading up. Leading up is because I'm managing up, because I've got these guys that are older, and more experienced than me maybe, but I would use my leadership to serve them and show them that I was in it with them, working with them. And I think that got me through. And of course, having the soccer background, having the English accent, and being quietly confident in myself.
Brilliant. Nick, so who do you look for? Who do you look up to? And who do you look, for inspiration and mentorship?
If I go back to the start, I guess I got to thank my parents a lot, because they gave me the belief and encouragement to step outside. They didn't hold me back from coming to America. They encouraged it. They pushed me. And so for sure, my parents, I guess, if you ask my wife, I'm more like my dad every day. And that's fine with me. That's no problem. And then when you step into Rush, you know what, when I first became Rush, Andrew Kuma, you guys know him as Boomer, was with us a long time. I spent 18 months sharing a desk with him, sharing a field with him, and just learning everything I could about Rush from him. I would say Tim, but to be honest, I was scared to death at that time. So it was difficult to be influenced there with the fear of, oh my gosh, this is Tim, this is the big guy. But Andrew was that Boomer was that intermediate guy that brought me along and helped me and really got me moving. And then outside of that, like if I think of today, a good friend, Pastor Dave, around the corner, he's the local youth pastor. You know what, I go to church on Easter and Christmas, and that's probably about it. But we spend a lot of time with him. His values are really important. Does a wonderful, wonderful job of, I look up to him on the things that he can do. I talked to you yesterday, Chris, you and Ben for sure, two are up there. Just if I need something, I can call you and you're there for me, and I listen and take advice from you guys. And then now I'm not as scared, I'll say as scared of Tim, that I can work with him and I see what he does and how he drives and he manages. And like you said, there's some things you guys do that I go, I'm not going to quite do it that way. But from the start, my parents, then Boomer, and then those people around me that I really trust right now. So Brilliant. Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, great answer, Nick. Tim, who do you look for inspiration and mentorship?
You know, that the picture of who you have here on this this PowerPoint is probably somebody I looked up to. I saw a movie about him, came out maybe a couple, 3 years ago, and just the example of what somebody goes through in what they believe in. They give their life towards something. That's just exceptional, and they're not afraid to give their life, which is probably more difficult than to die for your life, die for something, because dying is one time and over, but to live in prison and fight constantly day in and day out, I think people like that are exceptional. So Mandela would be somebody that's up there in my list.
Brilliant, because I was just about to say Fergie hadn't gone to prison, Tim, but I realize now it was Mandela. Ben, same question for you.
Yeah, I'm like Nick, and a little bit like Tim, in that my dad played a really significant role in my life, and was definitely an inspiration. He was a leader, in the church and in his work, and certainly in our household. And so I was certainly inspired and motivated by him. And like Nick said, there were good things and things I definitely adopted, and there were things that not my cup of tea. Dave Womack was someone else. When I was a young professional in higher ed, he was really gracious enough to allow me to make a lot of mistakes and let me go, because I was wild, I was passionate, I was really energetic, and sometimes what moments called for was thoughtfulness, and he was really, really patient enough to be thoughtful with me. And today it's more about an attitude, I think, when I feel like I'm in the right place, or sometimes when I'm not. But when I'm open and willing to learn, people come my way who inspire and motivate me. Moments sort of occur, whether it's a movie about a Mandela or a King, or even just a commonplace person that just kind of reveals something to me that I need to look at more closely, or change in my life, or impacts the way I empathize, and can be more present. And so it's this attitude of being open and willing to sort of learn, whether I'm conscious about it or those moments happen because of people. because of their selflessness. So because they're willing to do something, or to share, or to express, or to hear, or to give up something, whether it's their prejudices or their preconceived ideas. And that sort of creates this moment that kind of happens that bring people my way in unexpected times, or sometimes just right at the right time to inspire and motivate me.
Brilliant. Great answer, Ben. Good answers, all three. I love that. Okay, lessons learned. Let's go with you, Ben. What is your definition of leadership? And Nick, you did allude to what will come up. But Ben, I know you've touched upon it, but unmute yourself and give us your quick definition of leadership. And then we'll go to Nick next, and then Tim.
There's a lot of definitions out there, and some of it is based on style of leadership, etc. And so I just tried to find one that made sense for me in terms of how I try to lead. And so my definition was the power or ability to lead other people. And on a, that's kind of the official definition, but my personal sort of definition that I gravitate towards is the ability to direct myself and influence those around me, role model expected behaviors, and leverage strengths so that everyone feels fulfilled and valued. That's sort of my definition.
Nick, can you beat that?
I don't know if I can beat it, but I made it up, so I don't know if this works. So like I wrote a little bit down, so I'm just going to read it off here. So humble enough to listen and learn, strong enough to make the decisions, and present enough to be there for those that need you. And I feel that would be my definition. Hey, you got to keep learning. You got to keep listening. If you think you've made it, you've lost. There's times where you have to make that decision. You have to be strong enough to make it. And then it is super important to be present there, whether it is as a father to your kids, whether it as you're the coach of your team, or whether it is in a position like this, that when somebody needs you, you're present and there for them. So that would be my little one.
Brilliant. And it ties in again to your servant leadership. And Ben, what you're talking about there is leading yourself, but also leading by example. And I think it ties in. Tim, can you unmute and add to that?
I can.
Thank you.
Those are really good answers, you two guys, Nick and Ben. Those are really good things. Makes me ponder and think as well. Definition, probably in my role right now, is two things that come to my mind. Is one is making people empowered. I think that's something that Rush is good at. We just give people the authority and the leadership to just go ahead and make decisions and do their part. And at the same time, making them feel good about themselves. I think we should people build. I think we should tell people that they're good at stuff. Soccer coaches tell the kid that was pretty darn good what you did there today. Making them feel the self-esteem is being built up, and I think employees as well. And then I like the one that Ben brought up, is serving, or maybe it was Nick, but one of you two good leaders serving others. I think that's real important. Yeah, good comments from you guys.
Brilliant. And then Tim, we'll stay with you. What are the important attributes to be a successful leader in the club industry? And we've touched upon some of those. So listening. One we haven't really mentioned is being adaptability. But so servant leaders, being able to listen, what are the things, Tim? And then we'll open up to Nick and then Ben.
What comes to my mind is, probably doing things, adapting to anything that comes in front of you. Right now, a club coach, a director of coaching, we are just so limited on our resources. Every one of us have mowed the lawn and washed clothes, set up a schedule, acted as an HR director, so multiple hats, and being humble enough to go, I just got to get at it and just try and solve one problem at a time. So adaptability is a good one for leadership. Humble enough to mow the lawn when you have to, or line the field. And then strong enough to say, look, this is our goal. This is our vision. This is the way we're going, everybody. Come on, this is their direction. If we have to mow the lawn, we do it. If we have to get in front of a ball because it hits our face and we're in the wall as a 14-year-old, that's what we do. It's going to help us get our victory.
Yeah, brilliant. So to summarize, adaptable, humble, strong, and being able to do the things that need to be done without just getting it done. Nick, anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, I've got, those that you know me, you've got that. I wrote to disguise leadership as being a servant. So I think one thing that is important as well is to be able to encourage those around you to be better than they think they can. So you've got to have that ability to drive those others on. If it's a coach and it's your right back, if you're just trying to make them the best right back, even better than they think they can, or if it's in a leadership in a business industry. And then not being too stubborn. I know that sometimes I get caught in my ways a little bit, and I get reminded, hey, you know what, there are other ways. Make sure you're flexible enough, make sure you're listening. I put in there, you know, humble enough to listen, and then I look at myself and sometimes I'm thinking, well, no, I want to do it this way. And then there's 3 other people saying you want to do it that way. And just because I'm the leader, it might not be the best way. So whatever the opposite to stubborn is, it might be flexible, it might be adaptable, but for sure, not being too stubborn, and for sure, encouraging those around you to be better than even they think they can.
Brilliant. Ben?
Quick question: was Nick originally on this grouping, or did you get him because Daouda dropped out?
No, he was on. He was on originally.
Okay, because I just want to say, sometimes if we want to know how to be a better leader, just watch somebody else. And I think in his role, you know, it's not just words that Nick's sort of articulating. He really is sort of that servant leader to Rush. And it's hard to explain. You got to be around him long enough to sort of understand that. And I find that really inspiring. And then I think about Tim Schulz and a challenge that he put out 10 years ago. He said this, and I'll never forget it. He said, if you want to be a better club, get better people in your club to work for you, and create that opportunity for those people to work for you and with you, because you'll become a better club. And that really has been at the cornerstone of sort of, I think, some of the success we've enjoyed. When you look at, you know, sort of, you know, important attributes, even in our industry, you know, you'll see lists, you know, and it's, you know, 10 different things: being authentic, being inclusive, being self-aware, driven, relational, you know, good communicator, be selfless, be humble. All of those things, I think, are important. If you look at something that Tim said, being competitive, be effort focused while demanding high standards from people. He's always been that guy. He's uber competitive. Be responsible for your actions. All of those things, I think, are legitimate. But in listening to leaders, and this is before you asked me to be a part of this thing, Chris, but I noticed that really, really big time leaders, whether it's in the sport, been watching a lot of coaches in particular at a high level, you know, the one quality they seem to have is this quality of humility. I think Tim referenced it, and Nick did as well. And, you know, seeing leadership through that lens, I think, gives you all of those other things on the list, because you never assume that you know it all. You're humble enough to seek out help. You're willing to admit that you're wrong. You have enough humility not to believe that it's all good today, so I don't have to do anything tomorrow. I'm willing to work hard to be competitive. Humble enough to walk in someone else's shoes, and to be empathetic, and to be inclusive. I sort of saw humility as the lens that sort of adopts all of those other values. So that sort of became sort of the answer. And I think in these times, being humble enough to recognize you've got to change. Sometimes we get so caught in, you know, things have been successful today, I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. Things weren't successful yesterday, so I'm not going to do that again. And there are times at which we've got to be humble enough to kind of go, an old idea that didn't work before could work today. So I've got to be humble enough to accept that that's a possibility. But we've had to adjust to some pretty crazy circumstances. And if you weren't humble to start off with, I think the circumstances brought out a lot of humility in a lot of us. And then either we had the skill sets to adjust to that, or we didn't. But thank God for Rush, because I think when we didn't have it in those moments, Nick sort of alluded to it before, a lot of you guys have given me strength and provided sort of leadership and support when we needed it, when I didn't have it and I needed it. So.
Brilliant. Tim, this one's for you, and then we'll go to Nick. How important is it for leaders to align with the organization's vision, mission, and values?
Yeah, I covered really, really important. I think good leaders point to that mission and that vision and those core values all the time, more than themselves. I would be afraid to follow a leader that points to themselves too much and not the vision of the corporation. It would be sad if the leader quit or got fired or passed away and then the whole corporation goes to puts. That's bad leadership. I think if the leader goes and the vision stays, that leader led them in the right direction. The colleagues that are on this phone and the ones that Rush has attracted, Rush, not me, it's just humbling. There are some super people on this phone call, and it's an honor to work with them. I have been constantly reminded, say, Tim, that's not the direction we want to go, because I screw up the core values. I should be humble when I'm applying tenacity, or I should be tenacious when I'm being humble or shy, or I'm not taking advice when I'm being a leader doing my own thing. So I screw up the core values. I think they're great core values, and I believe in them 100%, but I don't put them in the right order sometimes, and I'll apply the wrong ones. And when I have colleagues around me, like one of us alluded to here, said, surround yourself with good people. I don't think it's surround yourself. I think just be part of good people. It's just attracted and be a magnet that these people will migrate together, and then they'll correct each other. I need that in my life. Say, this is not the time to fight. This is the time to be a good listener. So that's that I acquired along the way.
Yeah, and you brought up the vision and the mission very early, right? And that becomes our guiding North Star. And then living the values can be the hardest thing to do, and just leading by example and living those values, I think, and making it more than just words. So I think it's huge. Nick, anything to add to that?
There's not a lot, but I wrote.
Did anybody else lose Nick's sound, or is it just me?
No, we all lost your sound, Nick.
Okay, Nick, we lost your sound, so I'm going to let Ben take over. Oh, Nick, you're back. You're back.
Oh,
Nick.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
We can.
Yeah. So I had one word. It was imperative. If you're not in line, if you're not leading with a vision and the mission and the values, unless you're just trying to pick up a paycheck, then get out. So it's imperative.
Yeah. It's very important to plan, not just to hope, right?
Exactly.
Brilliant. Ben, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just simple. It's where are we going? Why are we going in the direction we're going, and how are we getting there? If those fundamentals don't exist, I think leadership kind of occurs in a vacuum, and it's problematic, because then it's, what is our challenge today might be different from tomorrow, might be different from next year, and there's no clarity or consistency that can be developed. So I think those are critical. And one way to measure that is, Tim has never lost sight of. I thought it was really interesting that he said he's sometimes not gotten the priorities right, which, tremendous amount of humility to sort of speak to that. That would be an interesting conversation to have, and insightful based on his experience. But he's always been really clear about the vision and kind of the values of this organization. And you can tell that by people like Nick who are in the organization that reflect it. And what's great when you do it right is, I think people can define it even better than you can as the leader. That sometimes the people around you, or that you've attracted to you, or that are part of your organization, can reflect sometimes when you need it the most, the vision and the mission and the values of that organization better than you even envisioned it as the leader. And so that's when it becomes truly inspiring, I think.
Yeah, and just to build off of that, it's basically planting trees that we'll never see the shade of. Like if the leader dies and the mission goes, then it's a poor leader. And just leaving things in a better place than we found them, right? The behaviors. In other words, what are we doing to instill the next set of leaders? You know, who are we surrounding ourselves with? And, you know, if we get hit by that proverbial bus, does that knowledge die with us? So good little bits there. Ben, I'm going to go with you first. What is the biggest challenge facing leaders today? And you can't say parents.
I was actually hoping you wouldn't start with me because I'm interested in what other people think. But mine's, I think we talked about sort of the ability to be flexible is critical because things are changing around us so much. It's not just things, it's people, places, and things that are changing. And our ability to sort of adjust to any and all of that is pretty critical. And then the biggest question that I think about is how can you be, you know, true to your values and your principles, even as you deal with all of those changes, you know? So I think that's a challenge. And sometimes for us as leaders, you know, we try to solve problems. We're problem solvers. And at the end of the day, what happens is we sometimes keep solving problems, but don't change the environment that might be causing the problem. So I think that's a challenge to get beyond just solving problems now. We've got to look at how do we impact our environment or organization or start, you know, thinking about the things that seem to create problems. And I think we're going through that as a society even. Where we're trying to, you know, when you think of what's happened in this last year, and not just the pandemic, but the racial issues that have been going on, you can't just solve the problems without giving some consideration to the environment that's causing maybe some of those problems.
Yeah, important. Tim?
Take myself on mute. Yeah, I would probably concur. Just the flexibility, the resiliency, the humility, the resiliency to adjust, because like I said, we wear almost so many hats as a director of a coaching or a technical director, and you got to be able to be flexible and then resilient to bounce back when, you know, it's just not quite the best answer, or finding soccer fields, or, you know, it's just not going to work out, and you just have to be resilient. You have to be able to bounce back, I think. The intelligence to want to do so. And then also, here's one, the stubbornness of pressing on and keep pushing forward. I've done that so many times wrong in my life and said, okay, that's just, we're not going to get down this path. Let's take a different route. I think that's a intelligence of a leader, or lack of intelligence of a leader. So the resiliency, but also the flexibility, and then this intelligence to pick a different route.
Brilliant. I think that's the reflection and evolution of a leader, though, Tim, to be able to look back and see and adapt again, you know?
Nick? Very good.
Yeah, I think that we've sort of hit the nail on the head with both of those. If you're literally talking about today, it's that flexibility. The lack of face-to-face communication has been a big challenge. Now we work remotely, but that's okay. But now we're working remotely with a bunch of 12-year-old boys, which is very different to being face-to-face and understanding. It's more difficult to be empathetic of a kid that you can't see their face, or they turn their screen off. Gosh knows how those teachers deal with it when the kids have got their screens turned off during class. Are they even doing anything? So being able to be flexible enough to that and understand how to communicate, how to gain the trust, how to successfully lead when we're not face to face and you can't have that personal interaction. And then this is where I sound old, I think, like almost like a softer culture that we have right now. You see these memes maybe about the parents screaming at the teacher because the kid didn't get good grades, whereas maybe when we was growing up, the parent would be screaming at me because I haven't got good grades. So just trying to understand that things have changed a little bit. And then as the country progresses, and Ben said it about the racial injustice, but the equality for all, as the country progresses, and we have to progress as leaders as well, and understand that there's some other things that are going on. Hey, it's beginning to happen where there may be gender differences on boys and girls teams. So how do we adapt to that, and how do we lead through that, and then how do we take that in our stride and make sure that everybody's understanding that this is okay, this is how it's worked, this is the next progress. So there's some challenges that are going to be very new, and if you're not willing to change with the times, you're going to get left behind, and your leadership skills are going to go down. So them things are a little more specific, but I think those are some of the things when I look at my life, wow, these are the things that have changed that I need to change, and are challenges that I'm facing.
Brilliant. Thanks,
Chris,
Nick.
maybe it's tied into the willingness to learn. We've got to also be prepared to learn. And I go back to sort of redefining the problem, right? And maybe it's changing the environment so that we eliminate 15 problems versus, which is one problem to solve, versus solving 15 problems. Iowa Rush is doing something really interesting. They recognize, look, we're not an academy club, we're not an ECNL club in a town where there's an academy and ECNL club. So do we solve that problem every time a player is coming to us and wants to go somewhere else? What Daryl and those guys have decided to do is to go, no, we're going to create greater value. And one of the things that we're talking about is, can we create a leadership program? Can we start appealing to parents to go, if you want, if you think there's better competition there, then fair enough, go. But if you want to be at a club that really speaks to the totality and the development of a person, stay here. Because as you're looking at ECNL, compare these 5 different things that we do in our club compared to going over there for ECNL. If it's singular for you, go ahead. But I think that's addressing the environment as opposed to solving that specific problem. And by addressing the environment, he's solving 250 problems, right? And I think that's the challenge for leaders. Are we willing to learn, and are we willing to look at problems in a slightly different way so that we address the environment that might be creating a lot of problems in our club? I think Iowa Rush is onto something there, and I think that's sort of the challenge for us. I hear Nick and Tim saying the same thing.
Yeah, good points, Ben. Good addition. So coming to our final couple of questions before I throw a couple of curveballs in there. Tim, we're going to go with you first. What do you recommend for coaches who are stepping into their first leadership role? And we've touched a lot upon some of things. So recommendations, Tim, after you unmute. You've unmasked. Now you've just got to unmute. There you go.
I'm standing by security, so I apologize. Came up with a program, this mentorship program. I love that program. I wonder if you create one for leaders, and maybe you pair up a younger leader with a new leader. I think that'd be a cool program, on a kind of macro level. I love that. That would be my recommendation. I like books, and I like looking stuff up on Google and whatnot, but man, just learning from somebody, listening to you guys talk, Nick and Ben and Chris, you just pick up stuff and you reflect a lot. So I think that'd be a cool step.
Yeah. So just to build off of that, Tim, one of the mentees' assignments is to start a mentor program in their club for players or coaches. So that's developing and becoming organic. And Tim, you also answered the second question about what advice would you give people continuing to grow? And you said read a lot of books and continue to maybe get a mentor or another leader that you admire, or somebody that leads a little different from you, so you have a different perspective. Nick, what do you recommend for coaches stepping into a leadership role for the first time?
Yeah, I was looking to the core values, and advice was the one that screamed out at me. So don't be afraid to ask. You're not meant to do this on your own. There's people there that can help. That's one of the highlights of Rush. You've got all these people in there that are willing to help you along your way. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to fail. Now, as long as you learn from the mistakes, you don't want to keep failing the same way over and over again, but understand that you're new at this, and you're going to fail, and you're going to get better through those mistakes. And there is something to say about really working on your best qualities as well. Yeah, we want to get better at things that we're maybe not so good at, but also highlight the things you're really good at, because then that helps with your confidence, that helps with yourself and your belief, and then your whole aura becomes a little more stronger and leadership-like. So if I'm always looking back, well, I'm not good at this, I've got to get better. I'm not good at this. My body shape already does this. If I think, you know what, I'm really good at this, and I'm going to keep showing people how good I am at this, then just your whole aura about yourself becomes stronger and more confident, makes you a better leader. Yeah. And so I said it right at the beginning and towards the end here, I gamble on yourself. Like, believe in yourself and gamble in yourself, and just say, this is what I want to do. Hey, I've got the cojones to go do this, and I'm going to gamble on myself to get it done. And I think if you can have that confidence, not arrogance, but confidence enough to believe in yourself, be strong, and ask around to see what's out there that can make you better.
Yeah, I think that's the good point, Nick. Just knowing your own super strength. So reflection, self-awareness, obviously, is something big in leadership. Ben?
Yeah, I saw 7 and 8 as somewhat similar. And I thought the critical thing here was young leaders. You know, what would your advice be to young leaders? And I think mine are similar to Nick and to Tim's. You know, and my 2 points are sort of semi-contradictory, but I'm hoping they don't come across that way. The first is listen before you act. And the second is act. Put yourself in situations that you might not know the answers to, but that you're willing to learn. Accept that failure is going to be part of your learning process. Don't assume that leadership is going to be a popularity contest. Be okay with not being liked, but hopefully you're not liked for the right reasons. And I say this to young coaches all the time: set the bar high. I mean, it's more important that they sort of respect you than they like you necessarily. So I think those are, as I reflect on my own sort of youth and, you know, leadership in youth, I think those were some of the biggest stumbling blocks that I had.
Yeah. Tim, anything to add? You look like you were going to unmute.
No, Ben, some good points. I love it. I just think, you know, I was drifting off here thinking, Chris, you got to set up one of these at our summit, because there's so much good stuff here. I mean, I could sit and talk with a small group for hours and hours. It's just really good listening to some of these guys.
No, absolutely. When we're face to face again, I think that's the plan, right? But sometimes we're not talking about work stuff. It just comes into it.
You know, I'm wondering, Chris, like, I think if we think about leadership too much, it's not natural. And now we question our ability. And I don't think it should be about us. It should be about what are you leading? What are you leading? Is it worthwhile? Does it have merit? Does it help people? Then focus on that. Don't worry about yourself. I think maybe it's a little bit selfish when we title this thing leadership. Maybe I'm just drifting off and thinking like, focus on team, focus on winning the players that you're coaching. Let's focus on that. Not, do I need to teach tactics right now? Do I need to come play out of the back? And what do they think of me? Or I'm coaching a female team and I dress properly. Or maybe as a leader, as a club, and you got 4 employees underneath you and you're going, my gosh, if I make a bad decision, they're going to not like me. Who cares? I'm making a decision because I think it's best for the club. It might be a bad one, but focus on the club. Focus on the objective. And I think you're going to come out winning even when you fail.
Yeah.
Tim, I think that's a really big point, because, you know, Chris was with me when I was newer to the club and was put in a position I didn't really want to be in. I didn't want to be the executive director of the club when they put me into it. I wanted to continue kind of coaching. And then, and then all of a sudden they came back to me 4 years later, 2 kids down the road now. And I'm going, okay, maybe I'd get into this because I could be around my family a little bit more. But I remember 5 years ago saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm just too tired. And what I started to realize was, leadership became sort of this pretty self-involved process with me. It was, I'm leading, I'm taking that responsibility. What I found out is I'm a bit of a control freak, and I had to sort of release some of that, create a structure, get people in place and trust them, coach them, believe in them, get them going. There's a process involved in all of that. And I feel today like I do much less than I did a long time ago. And I feel so refreshed because other people's talents are being expressed. And so if leadership is a conduit to just getting others to buy in and to take on and to share, then I think you become much better as a leader, and you've got a longevity as a leader, as opposed to 5 years ago being exhausted.
Agreed, 100%.
But that is exactly part of leadership, though, getting the right people in the right spots and giving them the autonomy to develop and build.
Yeah, Tim and I had that exact conversation, I think maybe 2 days ago, that we just worked through. I think we was on a webinar together at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then he called me at 9 o'clock at night. So what we'd just done 14-hour day. And we both said, have we actually done anything? But yes, we had done so much because we wasn't exhausted. It wasn't like I was on the field coaching for 8 hours straight. I think Tim's comment was, the thing that I feel like I accomplished the most today was with my 06 girls. But when you look on the backside of it, the accomplishments from everything throughout the day, helping the NTDs do this, helping Gary do this, expansion over here, all the other things was, we were doing lots and lots, but it was more leading other people to do it. And then for me, like I was Pikes Peak technical director for 10 years and I'm still a coach in the club, and people still come to me and I move them on to whether it was Brian or Paul or Matt or now Ramo. But I feel like that's humbling for me, for somebody still to come to me. I'm like, dude, I haven't been the leader of this club for 10 years, but they still come to me for advice and help. So I think that's a good sign. If you're, as you're growing and you're going through, if you need some, a little confidence shot or a little affirmation, that things like that go a long way to say, you know what, I can keep doing this. This is good.
Tim.
Chris, quick question for you. Do you think, and for the panel, like 30 years on in coaching now, I feel like I have enough experience to know that I'm never as good as I think I am. When I was younger, I thought I was really good. I'm never as bad as I think I am. I'm somewhere in between, but experience kind of gives you that. Do you think leadership is the same way, that the more we do it, the better we become? Or are there pitfalls in being an experienced leader where you start to take certain things for granted because you think you know? But to Tim's point, what are we leading? I mean, if that changes, then maybe we change. I don't know.
Hey, Ben, the more I learn about this leadership role, the more I feel inadequate. How about that one?
Yeah. So I think that goes to, in every position, everybody goes through the imposter syndrome at some stage. And Tim, you've just mentioned that. Nick, you spoke about that earlier. Even in the role you're in now at times. But everybody goes through that imposter. And I think that we have far more eloquent people within the Rush organization than myself, and more educated, that could host these webinars, which started as a phone call on the Concall line where nobody could see each other in 2014. And now, here we are almost 7 years later, with thousands of episodes and viewers and stuff like that. Tim, I want to ask you this question. Is there a decision, and you don't have to name names or people, is there a decision that you look back at over your leadership years and go, man, that was the wrong choice because of this?
Yeah, oh my God.
We'll just go with one, Tim.
One, yeah, I know.
Nick, I'm coming to you next as Tim's thinking, and then Ben to you.
I mean, a little bit too trustworthy and then getting stabbed in the back.
Yeah, that's important. That's succinct. I love that. I don't love that it happened, Tim, but being too trustworthy, and then good answer. Nick?
I think one of my downfalls is I'm too trusting. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and for sure have been burnt a few times. It's almost like there's too many little ones. I don't feel like there's been a massive, major, complete screw up. But I think every day, you know, when you go to bed at night and then you wake, oh my gosh, I really say that? Did I really do that? I get that probably weekly. So I couldn't tell you some specifics there, but there is a lot where the cringe factor is through the roof of what I just did that. What a ridiculous situation. What a ridiculous decision. Like, what was I thinking? And then try really hard not to do it again the next time.
So for those on, I think you can take that as Nick's apology, or to those who watch that later. Ben? Unmute first, Benjo.
Mine is going to sound, there's too many to mention, right? We've just made too many mistakes as leaders. And I think that's, if you're probably not leading well if you've not made mistakes. If everyone's really happy with you, you're probably not leading well. Something's not quite right, in my humble opinion. But one of them is, I think sometimes I was too honest with people. I would tell them exactly why they were being released, and I didn't necessarily do enough to help coach them through why they were being released. And you know, there's a lot of politics in club soccer world in our own environments, and what you don't want is someone who was your friend. This is an old adage that I think is true. Someone that was a friend in your club that then, because of your actions, become an enemy, and they go work for someone else and they make your life freaking miserable. So I think you have to be really careful about that. Sometimes you think honesty is a virtue, but if someone's not ready for your kind of honesty, then maybe it's not. Read the room, you know, and I fail to do that sometimes, like I should have.
That's a great answer, Ben. And it just goes back to knowing who's in front of us, whether it's coaches, whether it's players, whether it's parents, and having some decorum as we are giving the honest answer to those people. And then again, like Nick and Tim said, not being too trustworthy. Right. I'm going to leave this up on the screen. I'm going to open up to the floor to see if there's Nick, you're muted there. I didn't know whether you had something to add.
No, just getting ready.
Brilliant. If people have questions for Nick, Tim, or Ben, please fire away. You can unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your question before Tim gets on his flight. We've got 3 or 4 minutes, so hopefully people will have questions. Nobody's unmuting at this minute, gents. So we'll give it a little minute. I want to thank you for coming on.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Just a really simple question. What are each of your biggest leadership challenges right now, COVID-19 notwithstanding?
Does anybody want to hit that one?
Biggest challenges? I mean, I don't think it has to do with leadership, but traveling. I can't meet people face to face and share my body language and look at theirs and try and create a partnership. I don't know if it has to do with leadership, but traveling, it was part of my job quite a bit prior to COVID, and meeting clubs and meeting people, you know, leaders or presidents of various organizations. So that would be mine.
So how have you made that adjustment? How have you adjusted that?
Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
Trying to, I mean, partnerships are mostly relationships, I think. So I try and do it face to face over the Google.
Yeah, good answer, Tim. And just to build off that, we've done a lot of Zoom in, we've done a lot of webinars, we've done a lot of support, whether it's telephone, through COVID, and I didn't get the name who's talking, so I apologize for not using your name. What we did was, I wanted to call 3 different people a day, and I challenged them to call 3 different people a day through the shutdown back in March, and stuff like that. We held Zoom meetings with players. Of course, we don't know whether the players were doing the things they were meant to. We released the virtual learning center as a coaching ed group, and lots of people working towards that. But again, the challenges were not seeing people face to face, not knowing whether to simply shake somebody's hand as we come out, or whether it's a fist bump or a hug, So that interaction, that human interaction, and that social interaction has been a big challenge, obviously, which it has for everybody. Nick?
Yeah, I got just the sudden stop. So I'm going to use my 09 boys. I had them for a year, or we got them at tryouts. We did great in the season. We were developing, we were going fine. We did some winter stuff. It snowed a little bit. Well, whatever, we got going. We were getting ready for the season, and then bang, it stopped. Okay, so yeah, we can do all the virtual stuff and whatever. But then like you had this 6, 8, 10 weeks where there was a stop in the learning, a stop in the development. And so, and that's for probably 95% of the coaches. I know some of you guys out in maybe New York or Chicago or whatever are still, California might be a year into the stop. So how do you get back? How do you continue to motivate? And how do you not go backwards to go forwards again? So I felt really sorry. I've got my kids, you know what, we're back at school 2 days a week now. So Thursday, Fridays, the kids are in school. But I have a niece that's in England that is graduating, and they're going to she missed her last year at college. She is going to do a graduation virtually. Like that's got to be tough. So whether it's a leader through us or through the schools or the president or whoever it must be, that this is so different to anything we've experienced in our lifetime, that stop. And now as a leader, how do you regenerate? How do you revitalize everyone to get back going at the same level we were when we stopped, without feeling sorry for ourselves?
Brilliant. Ben, anything to add?
I think the overall challenge was morale, with all of the things that Tim and Nick just sort of spoke about, the morale of our players, our coaches, our parents, our administrators was impacted by, the uncertainty of COVID, and constantly having to come up with new ways, different ways, to execute on stuff, checking in with people. But I think, the way we've sort of dealt with it is it kind of depends on who you're speaking to. But care and being able to care for our people and listen to them and appreciate where they are, but then also challenge them to overcome. I was on a conference call with the coaching staff at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and the athletic director said to the coaching staff, I don't care if your morale is down. It's your job to sort of service everybody. So get over it. And I thought that was actually pretty darn powerful. He goes, go out there and look at what your kids have been going through all year. And you guys are moping around with your morale. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Stop it. Just go to work and get it done. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. I think that works for us. But how we show care and then sort of challenge people to react and respond comes down to your willingness to lead and to know your people well enough to lead them. And so I think that's going to be the challenge of morale in the uncertain times, is you've got to be a pretty present leader that's going to listen to a lot of people and figure out how you're going to balance all of that. And with enough care and concern and challenge, we'll get through it.
Brilliant. Great answer. Well, folks, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time together. I want to say thank you to our panel, and thank you to everybody who joined us, and thank you to everybody that will watch this later and on a recording. Tim, safe travels, and everybody else, stay safe. And
Crispy, thanks for your leadership, man, on providing these kinds of opportunities. We appreciate it. Learned a lot from everybody. Thank you so much, Tim, Nick, and everyone else.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. was very helpful. Thank you.
We did speak about getting you on a webinar last year. So the only way I could get you on was make you part of a panel.
Yeah, there you go. Appreciate it, guys.
So next webinar is Wednesday, not Thursday as usual, February the 3rd, 11 a.m. Our core value is enjoyment. Our topic for the month is coaching under 9 and under 10 players. Our guest speakers are none other than Sam Snow and Vince Gansberg. A couple of legends in the game, especially the American youth game. So that is our next one. And I look forward to seeing everybody. Safe travels, stay safe. Thanks to everybody that joined us, and thanks to everybody that will watch this later. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, all the positive comments, you can feel free to email to me, and all the negative ones we can just send in to Nick Penn as the executive director of Rush. So
thank you,
everybody,
gentlemen.
thank you so much.
Guys.